I work at a Christian college, and occasionally I'm called on to preach, and I use the whole stage when I do. So I'll pick this up, and if you can't hear it, it's probably unidirectional, but I'll speak into it. I want to thank you for being here tonight. It's a real honor and pleasure. It's great to see so many people. I'm going to have a picnic again tomorrow night in my home county, Olmsted County. I can only hope that there are as many people as interested as you are there tomorrow night. I'm sure there will be, but it's exciting to see. You know, taking on somebody like Al Franken or Tim Walz or Mark Dayton takes a 2-year process. And I know that, you know, in the past, sometimes we don't get started until about 6 months before the campaign or right after the general. It's important that we're engaged now. A lot of the work that Andrew's doing right now in voter ID is critical so that we have the lists updated so that we can communicate to the folks that can really contribute to our success. I want to start with my more important roles. First, I'm a husband, has been announced. My wife Sue is here tonight. She's a special education paraeducator for the Rochester school system, has been in that role for about 10 years. I have 4 kids, all adults, put them all 4 through college, 3 daughters and a son. The 3 daughters are all married, and 2 of them, the 2 oldest, have blessed me with, I didn't bring a picture, 5 beautiful grandchildren, which we don't get to see enough. So the grandparents in here know how special grandchildren are. I want to talk a little bit, of course, about what I do now, but I really want to get into what has brought me to this point, which I'll describe actually a little bit more about growing up and the accomplishments, and not in a braggadocious way, but simply to tell you that I believe that in America, at least up until now, it's been about hard work and opportunity and the freedoms that we have as Americans to prosper when we want to. But as been mentioned, I'm a state representative. I represent Rochester 26B, which is most of Olmsted County and southern tip of Rochester. I've had the pleasure of serving with Rich the first couple of years. We miss him sorely. And I also want to make sure that you all understand that I really appreciate every candidate, the representative, Andrew that's here tonight. Folks, it's a lot of hard work trying to make your case and getting out in front of folks. And I applaud them for it. Even the folks that I know that would probably like to take my job, I think it's really important that we have people that stand up to do this. So thank you to all of you. But I serve in that capacity and had the pleasure in the first 2 years of being part of a Republican wave. And there was 36 new House of Representative members in 2011. 33 of those 36 were Republicans. And because we took the majority from the Democrats in the House and the Senate for the first time in 50 years, we were able to craft a bill and present it to the governor, which he finally had to begrudgingly approve, that ultimately led to what was arguably the biggest turnaround in the state's history. We had $6.5 billion in deficit, a debt as we started the session, and we ended with a balanced budget that eventually led to a $3.2 billion revenue surplus. Wow. $3.2 billion. Now you think that would be enough, certainly, to get folks reelected, but in our infinite wisdom, we didn't. And we didn't get back in, and unfortunately, we had a Democrat-controlled complete legislature with a Democrat governor. And I want to tell you that during that Republican budget, that biennium, there was not 1 month where we didn't exceed revenue projections, the plan, by some amount, ultimately leading to that $3.2 billion. But we have just started the DFL budget, as you all know. It took effect July 1st. Fiscal year starts July 1st. Under their budget, which was passed in May, and people have had time to prepare, we've had our first month where revenue didn't meet the budgeted projections the first time in 25 months. They missed it by $21 million. Now, go figure. They only raised the budget, what we're going to spend, by $3.2 billion, and your taxes and your fees by $2.4 billion. Okay, so that's what I do part-time. But I'm also a business professor at Crossroads College, a small Christian college in Rochester, Minnesota. I've been at that for about 10 years. Actually served as their vice president of finance and interim president for a couple of years before I decided to jump into politics and take this on, which required a half contract in teaching. So I teach a full load every fall. And we just started school this week, so I'm excited about new students. My opportunity to talk about real conservative Austrian economics to students that are willing to learn. Now, I know I had 15 probably blowing that mic, but let me get to the race that I'm really interested in, and that is we've got to unseat Tim Walz. He does not represent our district. As Andrew said, actually the Republican index in CD1 is over 50%, which all we got to do is convince some of the folks that are independents and get all of the Republicans on our side this next November. And we can do it. We can send somebody there that will really represent us. I was born and raised in Central Illinois to a lower middle class family. That what I heard from the get-go is that, kids, you can be anything you want. You're just going to have to work for it. Because nothing in life worth anything is going to be handed to you. Nothing's for free. You're going to have to work for it. So very early on, besides being kind of an average student, I learned how to work. For you farmers in the crowd, I detasseled corn and walked beans in 95-degree heat for funk seed. So if you've ever done that, you know that builds character, right? So I learned very early on. I graduated from college. I did graduate from college, of course, but graduated from high school at 17. Took the civil service exam and started with the U.S. Postal Service. And I seized on that idea that you could be what you wanted to be. This is still the government we're talking about, but seized on every opportunity. By the time I was 23, I was a permanent supervisor of 100 letter carriers. By the time I was 26, I was an assistant postmaster. At 28, I was postmaster of a city in Central Illinois the size of Albert Lea. In 1988, they made me the postmaster of Rochester, Minnesota. In 1994, I was on the main negotiating table for the U.S. Postal Service to negotiate a national contract for 300,000 city letter carriers, writing the part of the contract that has to do with premium pay. At this point, in 1994, still in Rochester, they decided they'd promote me in 1995 at age 38 to the postmaster of Cleveland, Ohio. The year later, as postmaster of Pittsburgh, they all were in trouble, so I usually got the trouble places. And then in 2 years later, in 1999, I became the district manager of a district just outside of Philadelphia with 6,000 employees and $1.5 billion in revenue and $400 million in expenses. Now, I don't tell you that because I'm interested in you thinking I'm the best. I'm going to have to earn that trust. You have to decide with the votes that I've already taken and the things that I say if I can be trusted. But I say that because in the United States of America, if you work hard and seize every opportunity, you can truly be what you want to be. I lived what my dad and my mom instilled in me and made the best of every opportunity. I don't believe in luck. I teach my students in class that luck is nothing more than being prepared when opportunity presents itself. I made sure that at every opportunity I was prepared. Unfortunately, we have a different vision right now, don't we, in the United States? Barack Obama, Tim Walz, major supports Nancy Pelosi and all of her policies. We have a completely different vision. The vision that I have in the United States, and I'm looking out and I'm seeing you're feeling the same way, is the one where when people do need help, I work for a Christian college, I understand compassion, I understand the need to give when needs need to be met. But in the United States, government was about a hand up when we need it. That's changed. It's now a hand out. You know, in the last 3 years, well, since Barack Obama, I can tell you exactly, it was in the summer of 2009 when they repealed all of the welfare reform of 1996. That since that period of time, we have 15 million more people on food stamps. Now, I understand that we went through a tough economic time, but that's not the whole reason why we have that many. We have 47 million people on food stamps. We have 11.6 million people on unemployment, and that only begins to speak into the truth of just a little bit. Because I'm an economics teacher, I get into the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I understand that the real figure is far greater than that. And that the underemployed is another 10 million. And that last year, all the jobs that were created that touted the reduction in unemployment, 90% of them were part-time. Folks, that doesn't lead to the kind of prosperity that we need, that families can support their families. It's because of the failed economic and tax policies of the Obama administration, supported by someone like Tim Walz, who takes his marching orders from George Soros and the rest of the liberal crowd that would just rather distribute the wealth that you've created than helping people understand that they have a responsibility to work for their own. Right? I'm sure I'm probably getting close to the end. In fact, this is far more than the 5 minutes that I usually get. But the litany of things that this guy has helped pass is an assault on your First Amendment. You just look at what the IRS is doing. It's an assault on the Second Amendment. You just look at what the Justice Department would like to do. I'm a permit to carry holder and an NRA member and a national right to bear arms member. The stuff that if they could get it through that would happen. They violate your Fourth Amendment. You know, I'm all about protecting the United States, but folks, if we've got $1 billion building in Utah that can collect all of our data about who we communicate with, what's it take to get some administration in there that doesn't want to protect your Fourth Amendment right to use that material? And how about the 10th Amendment? Senator Abler spoke eloquently about the Obamacare. But what about state rights? What about the ability of Minnesotans in Minnesota knowing how best to serve their people with a health care? We had 90+% of Minnesotans on health care insurance. Did we need Obamacare to step in to tell us how to serve our population? No. I'm going to end with the railing on walls. I think you all get it, and he's got to go. I'm the guy to get it done. All right, I'm not going to take a back seat in debates about what needs to get done. I'll have plans, and it's not a personal attack on anyone. It's just the facts. Look up the voting record, and you'll know what it is. But I'm going to end with this. Actually, Mike had a wonderful presentation by a professor on the 8th. Wasn't it, Mike? Yes. Came up from Texas and talked about what's it going to take in order for the Republicans to win. I got into politics. I'll just be right up front. I got into politics in the 1970s. My dad was a blue dog Democrat, conservative socially, but a Democrat. Who grew up in the Union. That's all he knew, was a Union steward and so on. I'm not sure he liked his son negotiating for management later on, but that's the way it goes. But here's what I know. I got into politics in the 1970s because I was a social conservative. I'm pro-life, I'm pro-life, and I'm pro-life. All right? But that doesn't mean I don't get the rest. And this gentleman that we brought up here had a fantastic, in my mind at least, illustration of what we need to do in order to be successful as Republicans. A political party is a group of like-minded individuals who come together to do what? To elect people to represent and lead them in the way they believe will benefit the society or the country that they love, right? That's a political party. That's oversimplification, but let me tell you, in the Republican Party, you have the social conservatives like me, but you have our brothers and sisters that are Tea Party folks. I'm going to the Tea Party picnic on Thursday night, right? We have the folks that are the mainline business Republicans that get the economics, that can't keep taking from people and understand that they can create jobs to put people back to work. Economics 101. All taxes are a dead weight loss on the economy. Do we need them? Yes. Do we need this much? No. Right? So we have the Tea Party. We have our libertarian brothers and sisters who are usually the younger folks. We need them in the party. Right? Yeah. So we have at least 4 people. Four different groups. We need every one of them. We need a candidate who can appeal across lines. But guess what? We can't tank the rest of the economy for one entity. I didn't vote for it. But I understand the business folks who are re-examining as we speak the environment that's been created in Minnesota and trying to determine if it's worth building another building here or should they leave the state of Minnesota. Right? The same thing is going on at a broader level, at the national level, with companies trying to decide, do we stay in the United States, we move to Mexico, or we move to China. I can bring all four elements together because I know what they want. I voted for what they want. I'm going to finish with one last piece. Promise. Give a microphone to politicians. It's very tough stuff. Okay. That's how it comes out. But Representative or Congressman Walz, you know what? I'm never going to say a word about the fact that he's a veteran. I'm so glad that he served. I'm so glad that Aaron Miller and Jennifer have served. I think that we need to be proud of those individuals. But I serve on the State Government Finance Committee. I hear the testimony from the Department of Veterans Affairs. And we, as a nation and a state, based on his votes, should be ashamed. The unemployment rate for veterans in the state of Minnesota is twice the unemployment rate for the general population. Twice. Most people don't know that, right? So all the things that he touts, he wraps himself in the flag, and I don't begrudge him the fact that he's a veteran. It's not working. I visited with the guy who is the Higher Education Veterans Administration Liaison. His name's Tony Tinkstead. And Tony works at RCTC in Winona State and has the whole southeast portion of Minnesota. I was the first politician that ever visited his office. Walz hasn't been there. And he unloaded on me the problems that he has with Veterans Affairs and higher education not mashing on the things that are important for veterans. In fact, he told me that MNSCU does not even share the list of veterans who are registered at the school. He has to run into them. He has to go to graduation to find out who they are. So I have a meeting, a roundtable meeting at St. Mary's University on Monday, in fact, and I'm going to shout, how in the world can we expect to improve things if this is the kind of bureaucracy we have in just the state? And I visited with Neil Doyle, who is the county representative for Veteran Services, and understand that because of how poorly the paperwork's being pushed in other areas of the country, not so bad and not so much in Minnesota, that because it's so bad, Minnesota's office has had to take the rest of their files to try to catch them up. Chicago, for example, is 2 years behind on adjudicating claims for veterans. And most of you will probably believe that a lot of this is from Desert Storm and recent. Actually, 80% of them are claims that are coming from baby boomers out of the Vietnam War generation. But for him to say that I'm a veteran and I'm helping veterans is absolutely not true. He's just got to talk to real veterans about where they're at and the people that claim it. I'm done now. But Mike Benson, state representative from Rochester, Minnesota, and I want to earn your trust. I want to earn your trust to be your representative next fall when we meet. Tim Walz. Thank you. God bless.